So let me give you a concrete example of a real application where this ultra reliability is so important that kind of encapsulates a lot of the things we've been talking about here. This is a form that would be printed in a paper mill. This is actually used to label a 1,095-pound roll of paper. It's a big physical piece of raw paper before the paper has been cut into either office supplies or into newsprint or magazine print or whatever it's going to be used for. Now what happens is that this label has to be applied right at the end of the paper production process, because one of the critical things is every roll of paper after it's produced has to be weighed, and that weight and length has to be labeled right then and there at the end of the paper machine. A paper mill machine, if anybody has not seen this, is about a $500 million machine that is unbelievably long. And what happens is at the start of that machine, you actually have ground up trees and water and pulp all being dumped into a big liquid vat. And as this goes through this machine, on the output side comes out completely clean, dry paper ready to be used. Okay? And somewhere in between, it's a mixture of liquids and then less liquids and then less, and then finally you get the paper. This machine cannot be stopped. You can imagine if you stop this machine, this whole thing, all this paper that's in transit, all in the drying process, just completely becomes a nightmare and takes then days to clean this thing out before it can be ready to be started again. Suffice it to say, if you have a piece of equipment as a provider that brings that machine to a halt, that's probably the last day your piece of equipment is allowed in that plant. So if you look at the output of the paper mill machine, you'll see this giant machine, and out come these rolls. The rolls themselves are so physically large, they can only store a few rolls before these things get moved off to storage. But again, as I point out, they have to be weighed, labeled, and everything before they can be moved. So you have a very small area and almost no tolerance for downtime. If that printer stops working, it's almost an immediate crisis because you've got to get the product moving away before you stop that machine. That's when you need, that's a business critical application. That's not, hey, we got a jam, no big deal, we're going to come back to tomorrow and get these labels printed. This is like, this has to be working right this instant. And hence, people will pay a great premium for a machine that is up to